Vicky Rice and welcome back to my YouTube channel, or welcome to my YouTube channel if you've never been here before. I thank you guys so much for stopping by. So for today's video, I'm going to be doing I think it's probably going to be very long video about primers and foundations and which foundations you should use with what primers. So I've got my trusty kitty cat notebook full of notes that I took. So it's going to be a really in-depth video. I did a lot of research on it, and I'm going to link all of my citations below with all of my resources and different information sheets that you guys can look at to get even more information, because it's such an interesting topic, foundations and primers and what chemicals can be used with what and what chemicals are going to be reactive to other chemicals. So if that's a video that you guys would be interested in watching, make sure you stay tuned. So I'm going to be looking off of my list because I've got 4 pages of notes, so again it's going to be very in-depth. I've got all the receipts, so let's get started. So the first thing I have is, why are primers necessary? I hear a lot of people say that they don't use primers, or wonder why I use a primer on my eyes and why I use a primer on my face. And for the face, it extends the lasting time of your makeup. It can blur pores and fine lines. It can decrease the appearance of redness, and it can hydrate the skin. So the blurring effect is going to be for people that have bigger pores, oilier skin, acne. The hydrating primers are going to be for people that have drier skin. So having those different imbalances in your skin, having a primer is going to help blur them and erase them and make your skin go on a lot smoother than it would if you weren't to use a primer. So eye primer is used to decrease creasing, and it's also used to intensify eye looks. I use an eyeshadow primer every day, but even if I didn't, I would specifically use one for if I were using a more colorful palette, just because it's going to show up a lot nicer. You're spending a lot of money on these shadows and on these palettes. You're going to want to have them show up as vibrantly and as beautifully as you can. So having these products to extend that wear time and to make it look a lot brighter and more pigmented is something that's always going to be great in terms of your makeup. So the next thing I have on here is, what kinds of primers and foundations are there? So there are 3 different types of primers and foundations, and each of these different types have different bases. So some foundations have silicone bases, which are the most common type of foundations and primers. Then you've got your oil-based, which is the least common, and then you've got your water-based, which falls right in the middle. So those are the 3 types that you can have. So the next question is, how can you tell what bases are which? So every primer has kind of descriptors that you can use to gauge what kind of primer or foundation you are getting. So silicone foundations have keywords like high definition, HD, silky, long wearing, photo finish, and waterproof. Oil-based primers are going to have the descriptors that are saying that it's hydrating, moisturizing, nourishing, glowing, and enhancing. And then water is going to say oil-free, silicone-free, lightweight, radiant, comfortable, and water infused. Although I will say that I have seen water foundations say that they're hydrating or moisturizing. So those words aren't mutually exclusive to oil-based, but it's just more commonly found in oil-based. So that's something you should remember. So something you're going to want to look out for when you're buying your primers and your foundations are the ingredients. So every liquid foundation will contain water. Just because it's a liquid, you need water to have a liquid. So every foundation that's a liquid is going to have water as an active ingredient, even if it is silicone based or oil based. That's just the way it is. I've got a bunch of silicone foundations that have water as the first ingredient, but then it's got the silicone active ingredients, which I'm going to discuss now. So silicone based products contain ingredients that have a cone, a methicone, a silicate or siloxane suffix. So these ingredients will be at the top of the list. So for my, just an example, Maybelline Fit Me Dewy Foundation, it's got water as the first ingredient, and then it's got dimethicone as the second active ingredient. So it's got that cone suffix, so that's how you know that it is silicone based, and that's going to match with my silicone primers. So for primers, you can usually tell texturally if it's silicone based or not. The product's going to glide over your skin, it's going to create a blurring effect, and it's going to feel kind of silky and smooth and really luxurious in a way, kind of like you're rubbing a piece of velvet a weird sense of the word, but it's kind of velvet-like. So after that, we have our water-based makeup, and that's not going to contain any silicone or oils near the top of the list. That's not to say it's not going to be found lower on the ingredient list, it's just not going to be at the top. So you're going to see water as a main ingredient, and then maybe some dyes or whatever pigmentation that they're using for the primer. Hopefully in the primer there aren't that many pigmentations to it. I know that Smashbox makes a green one and a purple one for different reasons, but that's the only time that I can think of there being a dye in a primer. But in foundations, whatever pigment you're using to get that shade, like browns or beiges, that's going to be higher up on the list than a dimethicone would be, or a siloxane would be, you know, something like that. So water-based, water is going to be the top ingredient. You're not going to see silicones or oils till the bottom of the list, if you see any at all. So I've got a lot of notes for the oil base just because it's the most in-depth, so don't mind me looking at the sheet, please. I just have a lot to say about oils. I wanted to make sure that I'm saying the right thing and not spreading false information. So oil-based is the least common type of foundations and primers. One indicator that a product is oil-based is to look for the products that look like oils that are made from fatty acids, although this can be deceiving. Ingredients include cetyl alcohol, lanolin, stearic acid, jojoba oil, tea tree oil, and avocado oil. Oil-based products can sometimes contain silicone and water, but if these aren't active ingredients listed near the top, it is still considered to be oil-based. So there aren't really a lot of oil-based primers or oil-based foundations. They're a lot more rare than you would find a silicone-based or a water-based. Most of mine are water-based or silicone-based. I don't think I've ever had an oil-based primer or foundation. So that's really interesting. But again, I've never really had dry facial skin until this year. So I'm lucky enough that my face hasn't been too dry where I would have to use oil-based products. But you know, for some people that have chronically dry facial skin, that's definitely the alternative that they're going to want to go to, but I will talk more about that later. So the next thing I want to talk about is what base is best for what skin type. So oily and acne prone skin, they're going to want to have a lightweight or a silicone based primer. In the summer months, I have to definitely use a silicone primer, not so much in the winter, but definitely in the summer. I have really, really oily skin when it comes to heat. When it gets hot, my face starts to melt and sweat. So having a primer that's going to kind of block that off is really great, and fill up my pores as well, because I've got huge pores. They're shrinking a lot more recently, but it helps to kind of fill those in and blur them out. So it says that if you have oily or acne prone skin, water or silicone base is going to be the best choice for you. You want to verify that the products are I can never say this word, non-comedogenic, which means that it's not going to give you acne, it's not going to break your skin out, it's not going to clog your pores, it's going to be nice, and it's going to wash away easily whenever you're doing your regular skincare routine. Some things are comedogenic and they will clog your skin, so you're going to have to pay really close attention to the products that you are buying. I made more of an effort in more recent months to choose products that are non-comedogenic, just because I'm trying to take better care of my skin, because you know, skincare is the base of what your foundation goes on, and if your skin's not great, your makeup's not going to be as great, which is rude to say, I think, but it's kind of the truth. So keep that in mind. So the next skin type that I have is for sensitive and dry skin. The best products for them are going to be cream or oil based products. Not all cream products are oil based, but a lot of them are. I've had some cream primers. Now that I think about it, I have had oil based primers. But then they also have oil primers that come in like a little dropper, and they're an actual oil, like a facial oil. So the resource that I use said that using primers is good for people with dry skin, as it will help foundation blend and not stick to dry patches. So something that I've noticed when I have drier skin is that my skin is so thirsty for nutrients that it will suck up anything that I put on my skin. So I tried using my regular silicone based primer at first when it started turning to December and it started getting colder, and I was noticing that my products were kind of being sucked into my skin and not sitting on top of my skin like I like. So my skin was kind of like searching for nutrients in the foundation, which was clogging my pores and creating more acne. but the oil kind of gives it something to suck into the skin to give it life so that it can sit on top and it won't, I don't know if this is making any sense, but it won't seep into your skin like a moisturizer would, which I was noticing my skin was doing, which was really weird, and it made my skin look dry, and I would have patches like on my forehead and right in here and like right out here where my skin looked really gross and dry, and it just emphasized those dry patches instead of helping it. So I think that using a primer more often has really helped with that. It says that radiant products with pearl-like finishes are ideal as it will hydrate and leave the skin looking fresh and dewy. The primer that I use for this is the Becca, I think it's the backlit primer. It is creamier, and it's got little flecks in it that brightens your skin and makes it look a lot more beautiful before you put your foundation on, and it gives it a great base to stand out on. So I will say that using more radiant products if you have dry skin does make a world of difference with how your skin is going to look. So the next skin type I'm going to talk about is normal to combination skin. So reading this off of my paper, it says that normal and combination skin types can use almost all primers depending on their skin needs or based on personal preference. It is recommended that these skin types use primers and foundations that contain antioxidants to maintain their skin's natural balance. So I can only speak for myself. In the spring and in the fall, I have combination skin, but I fall more into the actual combination skin type, where some days my skin will be very dry, some days my skin will be very oily, just depending on the weather, how hot it is outside. So with that being said, I do use which primers I have on hand that I think will do the job that I want them to do. So normally on hotter days, again, it's Maybelline Baby Skin, which is a silicone based primer, and then on other days I will use the Becca primer, just because it does give that moisture. And more recently, I've been finding that my skin does a lot better with mixing primers, even in the winter. So I've been starting out with, I've got it right here. I've been starting out with my Flower Beauty Perfecting Primer, which is a silicone primer, but it's a lot more lightweight than my Baby Skin is. This one's gonna give your skin a more hydrated kind of feel to it, and my Baby Skin gives the blur. So I've been using the Flower Beauty primer on the outsides of my face, and then I've been concentrating the Baby Skin primer on my nose and where my pores are bigger, where I have lines on my forehead and my smile lines, and I found that that blurs it out, but it doesn't leave the rest of my skin looking dry and thirsty and needing moisture. So I've liked that a lot. So you might be wondering which primers can work with which foundations. So the first thing I want to state is that water foundations should go with water primers. Don't try mixing a water foundation with a silicone primer. Don't try mixing an oil-based foundation with a water-based primer, because it's not going to work. And the reason behind that is pure science. Water and oil don't go together. They will repel each other. Just think about like those experiments that you did when you were a kid, and you would mix the like you'd have a bag of water and you'd put drops of oil in it, you'd shake it up, and the oil would stick to each other and rise to the top, and the oil would float to the bottom. There's a reason for that. They don't mix. Oil and water will never mix, and just because you put it on your face doesn't mean it's gonna go well. I've had situations where I didn't know, because there aren't a lot of resources on this, which I find a little bit ridiculous, but I bought at the time the new Tarte Rainforest by the Sea, or Rainforest of the Sea. I can't remember what the actual name is for it, but I bought that water foundation thinking, oh yeah, I got this whole foundation, you know, it's fine. I spent $50 some on this foundation, but it's gonna look great. And it didn't look great for a number of reasons. I didn't like the foundation to begin with, but the primer that I was using, which is the Maybelline Baby Skin Primer, is silicone based. So I saw that by, I think it was like midday, my under eyes, like the creasing would be huge. Like it would be like that big. Like it was so embarrassing. And then on my nose, there would be nothing left on my nose, just because it separated so horribly, and I wish I was being dramatic, but pictures and videos from me back then, you could see that there was like a weird like lack of foundation and product on my nose because they would repel from each other. They don't want to be close to each other. So you're only setting yourself up for failure if you put them together. So I recommend that you do not put them together. Different resources on the internet recommend that you don't put them together. So for the love of God, don't put them together. Oh, and I will say that even though this is the case for water foundations, you can mix oil-based products with silicone-based products. The only time that don't mix rule comes into play is when you're trying to mix water foundations or water primers with something that is silicone-based or oil-based. So just make sure you guys know that. So I've got a whole page devoted to additional notes. So let's look at these. So the first additional note is that some people really don't like silicone-based primers. They feel like it's too slick and that it makes their skin look oily and that it adds a greasy texture to their skin. This is normally the case for people that have oilier skin. So if you already have really oily skin, this might not be the case for you. Just kind of take a look and see what you like and what your texture preferences are, because everyone has different textures that they do like or don't like, and that's just sensory. Like, it's not anyone's fault, but just see that you're liking the products that you're using, because some people don't, and that's always something to consider. The next note that I have is that there are different types of silicones. So there's the commonly used dimethicone, which is used in a lot of drugstore products. All the products that I have right now that are sitting in front of me that are silicone based have dimethicone in them, but there are different silicones that you can have. One of them is cyclopentasiloxane. And that one is used in more higher end products. So again, you're gonna see the cyclopentasiloxane in stuff that you're gonna see in the prestige side of Ulta or anywhere, I guess, probably in Sephora, but you're not gonna see them at the CVS or the drugstore side of Ulta or at Target. You're gonna see dimethicone, and some people say that dimethicone is less good than other types of silicone, but again, it's all personal preference and what you have to spend on these products. It's not the best product, but it does get the job done and it does work really effectively. You just need to be certain that you're washing your face every night. Don't ever sleep in your foundation, although you're not ever supposed to sleep in your makeup anyway. Like, girl,
if I find out that you're sleeping in your makeup, I'm coming for you.
No, I'm just kidding, but like, please don't do that. Your skin's gonna hate you for it. Like, don't do that, girl. But I'm saying that if you're going to use products that are silicone based from the drugstore, you want to be more conscious of washing your skin thoroughly so that it does not stay in your pores. The next note is that silicone based products are traditionally waterproof. I like using these products when I'm gonna go run errands, or it's summer, or I'm at work, or I'm exercising and I don't want to take off my makeup. It's situations like that where you would want to use a product that is silicone based, because it's not going to sweat off your face. It's going to provide at least a little bit more luck to your skin, whereas if you were to use a water foundation or a water based primer and you start sweating, that's all she wrote. Like, she is going to start dripping down. Like, you know, when you don't have a waterproof mascara, it's going to be like that for your skin. So if you live in a humid area, like a humid climate, if you live in Seattle or someplace where it's always rainy, you want to consider that water-based products might not be for you, and that's okay. But again, you have to consider what your skin is telling you. You have to consider, you know, the environmental factors. There are a lot of things that go into play when you're thinking about products you are going to use on your skin and what makeup you're going to use and how it's going to turn out. So that's also something to consider. But with that being said, water foundations are the easiest to remove just because they're made out of water. If you're using a cleanser and you go in with some water, it's going to be really easy to get off your skin, which can be very appealing to some people. I'm not one of those people. I'm not really that pressed about it, but if you are someone that is pressed about it, that again is something to consider. All of these things are really something to consider, and again, it's all based on personal preference. All right, so the next note that I have is that oil-based products are not going to be recommended for people that have oily skin. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. It's basically only recommended for people that have dry skin. just because it deposits so much oil onto your skin that it can clog pores, it can make your skin look shiny and oily and greasy, and not everyone is up for that look. But again, if that's something that you want in your makeup, that's totally fine too. It's just that it's not always recommended by makeup artists and, you know, cosmetologists and estheticians and dermatologists. So again, keep that in mind. I'm gonna say it probably to the end of the video. It's all in personal preference. So the last thing I will say, I've made this mistake so many times, so I cannot stress this enough. Don't use too much primer. When I was first starting out, like doing my makeup and using, well, not doing my makeup, but like using primers and, you know, trying to blur my pores and stuff, I would just squeeze so much product on my hands and rub it in, and it would just sit on top of my skin because my skin had already absorbed all that it could absorb. And so it's just gonna sit on your skin and it's gonna cause your foundation to shift around. It's not gonna melt into your skin properly. It's just gonna sit on top and look clumpy and gloopy. If you're using a primer that has more grip, the chances of it pilling up are a lot more common. So again, just letting you know, start with less than you think you need, and that's probably gonna be enough. Think of a pea-sized dollop, and that might be enough to fit your whole face depending on what product you're using, but that's usually the gold standard, is a pea-sized amount, and then work up or down from there. Again, it's all about trial and error, so do whatever works best for you. Try these products that you're using and make sure that it's something that fits your routine and your skin, and that your skin is not going to be dying because of it. Alrighty guys, so we made it to my last page, and it's all of my final thoughts. So the thing I will say is, when you're getting a new primer or a foundation, make sure that you mix those products on the back of your hand before you try it out on your face, to see if they're going to be reactive to each other, to see if they're going to separate. And that's not to say do that every time, because that's going to be a lot to do, and you're not, I mean, you can mix your primers and your foundations, but it's going to be a lot every time. So just when you're buying a new product, take your back of your hand, put like a dollop of whatever primer you're using, put a little bit of foundation on there, mix it around, wait 20 to 30 minutes and see how it reacts to itself. And if there's no reaction, and if it just blends together and looks beautiful, then you're good to go. If it starts separating or congealing or looking gross, that just tells you that those two are not meant to be together. You're gonna have to return whichever one you just bought and pick one where the ingredients correspond with each other, where it's not going to be reactive, where it's not going to cause too many issues. The next final thought that I have is, always pay attention to the ingredients of the products that you're putting on your face. I've had to become more aware of this in more recent months, just because I realized how ignorant I was being about, you know, just putting products on my skin and not knowing what was in it, not knowing if it was going to clog my pores, not knowing if I was allergic to it, not knowing if it was going to be reactive to any skincare products that I have. So it's definitely a conscious effort that I'm working at, but I think everyone should also work towards making sure that they know what is in the products that they're putting on their face, because there are so many different harmful chemicals that you can put on your face that can be included in cosmetics that you just don't know about. So do your research, see what's in those products, see what products aren't good for you. Google is free, so just see what products are going to be good for your skin types and which ones aren't. That final thought actually blends into one of my other ones that I wrote down. Choose products that are right for you and that are right for your skin type. What works for others might not work for you. So for a lot of years, I would buy products just because, you know, a YouTuber told me that, oh, this is a holy grail product, you're totally gonna buy it, like it's the greatest product ever. And like, I'll say that there are products that are great, there are products that I love, but I understand that what works with my dry skin at the moment, it's not gonna work for someone that has oily skin year round, or my oily skin in the summer is not gonna work for someone that has dry skin year round. It's all about what your skin type is. You have to do research into what products are going to be good for your skin type and which ones aren't going to be good for your skin type. Don't just take everything at face value. Do your own research. See, you know, if you've got combination acne prone skin, see what primers are going to be best for your skin, see what foundations are going to be best for your skin. I am going to leave a tool in the description. It's like a community spreadsheet where it's got all the active ingredients listed to, I think it's all of, I could be wrong, but I think it's all of the foundations, primers, BB creams, concealers that are on the market right now, so that you can see the active ingredients, see what's going to be reactive to your skin, things like that, where you can be informed, but it's not going to be that hard to like look into. So I'm going to leave that linked below, so make sure you check that out. It's going to be a really good resource for you. I learned a lot looking at it, and I think you guys could too. So just make sure that you're buying products for what your skin needs, not because someone else said that that's what you need. Last two things I have to say: listen to what your skin is telling you. If you're allergic to a product, don't continue to use it just because you bought it. So a few weeks ago, when I did the whole shopping spree at Ulta, I bought a primer from NYX that I could use when I was 16 years old, 17 years old. I haven't purchased it since I started buying the Maybelline Baby Skin primer. And I tried it out again, and I noticed a bunch of tiny little bumps. And I was like, ooh, what's this? And like, I was like, well, I'm allergic to something, but I don't know what I'm allergic to, because I was also trying out a new foundation. I was trying out a new concealer, which I will also say, don't stress your skin out. Like, if you're buying new products, don't try all those new products out on your face all at once. If you're someone that has reactive skin, if you're someone that has really sensitive skin, don't do that to yourself, because you're just going to break out and you're going to frustrate yourself. Integrate them into the products that you're already using, just so that you don't shock your system, which isn't the case for everyone, but for people with sensitive skin, you really do have to be aware of that, because I wasn't aware of that and I ended up paying the price because I got a bunch of little bumps everywhere. And so I stopped using the foundation because I figured that might be it. And I tried the primer one more day, and sure enough, I got more bumps on my forehead, and I got some right here, and I was like, okay, well, it's time for me to get rid of this. I gave it to my sister. I was like, does this break you out? And she was like, no, I love it. So I was like, here you go, have fun, love you. That's all you. But for me, my skin didn't like it. So you really have to pay attention to what your skin is telling you. You know, if a product is on your face and it burns, don't use that product. If a product is on your face and it itches, don't use that product. If a product is on your face and it's causing you to break out like in a bunch of little bumps that are allergic reaction bumps, stop using that product. Like, and I didn't want to do it either, but I was like, you know what, it's not worth it, because my skin's gonna look even worse if I keep using it. So pay attention to what your skin is telling you, because your skin tells you a lot, even if you don't realize that it's telling you something. So guys, that is it for this video. I've been wanting to do this video for a really long time. I think it's been almost a year now, ever since I started my channel. I've wanted to do a video on what primers you can use with what foundation, so I'm really happy that it's finally filmed. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope that it was informative. I loved doing the research for this video. So if you guys want to see a video that is more research heavy and more in depth, where it's more educational but also beauty related, let me know, because I really did have so much fun doing the research for this. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. It would help me grow a lot. And I think that's all I really have to say. So I will see you guys in my next video. But until then, bye.